Morning glory, America. Bonjour, hi, Canada. Hugh Hewitt live on this August 24th, in the year of our Lord 2022. I am in Studio North reviewing last night's election results. Republicans and Democrats split a pair of special elections in New York. Republicans a little disappointed. They wanted to get Mark Molinaro to the House early. They didn't. He came up a little bit short in the old congressional district number 19, losing to Pat Ryan by about 5,000 votes. Pat Ryan, Democrat, running on abortion, had 68,807 votes with 95% in. Mark Molinaro had 63,844. But the red wave is still coming. I'll tell you why in just a second. Preview Florida school board races. But just so you know, I love Politico's gone way, way left, and I've told you that. Politico went way, way left, and they're doing it. Democrat hopes, Democrats surge. There's not going to be a red wave. We're going to be in great shape. Don't worry about it. We'll look at last night, the special Pat Ryan one. In 2020, in the 38th, 343,000 people voted in November. About 130, 68 and 63. What is that? 30,000 people voted. So you have roughly 40% of the normal electorate in a presidential, probably 60% of the normal electorate. It doesn't tell you anything. Republicans have won 3 specials out of 4. That does not mean they're going to win 3 out of 4 races. Specials are weird. All I care about is voter turnout, and mostly I care about school board races in Florida, where the issue just swamped liberal incumbents. The pro-mask mandate people, they got wiped out. Ron DeSantis led the campaign against them. He had a very good night. He gets to running against Charlie Crist, which really isn't fair because Charlie Crist is such a terrible candidate. But Charlie Crist crushed the abortion rights activist who ran against him. Also a statewide name, what's her name, Freed. And so the abortion will mean everything in the November crowd, which dominates Manhattan Beltway media elites, thought that it would be close down there. Charlie Crist said, yeah, abortion matters, but he ran on traditional Democratic issues. He was a Republican, then an independent. Now he's a Democrat. He's a congressman. DeSantis is going to take him apart joint by joint. But the key thing is those school board races. And I got to tell you, I'm very happy about this. The one county completely threw out their liberals and replaced them with conservatives DeSantis had focused on. Here's a little bit of Ron DeSantis from yesterday on Fox and Friends, cut number 8, talking about Nikki Freed, who lost to Charlie Crist last night, but represents sort of the Democrats running everywhere. Cut number 8 on abortion.
Yeah, Steve, you talk to Floridians who've been here for a long time, people that have just come over the last few years. The reason why they're doing that, the reason why they're happy with Florida is because we've protected their freedoms. We stood in the way of lockdowners like Nikki Freed, who opposed every decision I made to protect people's rights. And when she says you don't have freedom of speech in the classroom, understand what she means. She wants to use our schools to indoctrinate students into her ideology. And our position on schools is that the purpose of the school system is to educate kids, not to indoctrinate kids. Mm-hmm. So yes, we oppose things like critical race theory in our K through 12 schools. We want to teach accurate history, we want to teach American civics, and we want to make sure that parents have confidence that sending their kids to school, the school's going to be focused on the core academic subjects and not try to inject left-wing ideology into the curriculum.
You do have a teacher shortage. I know you talked about maybe using veterans to do that, but I think one of the big things in Florida is the pay is so low. What are you doing about the pay?
Well, Brian, since I've been governor, we just did the largest pay increase for teachers that we've ever had in Florida. When I became governor, the average minimum salary was just over $40,000. With the budget we just signed, it's now going to be over $48,000. So we're in the top 10 for average minimum salary. And if you talk about recruiting teachers, that's what you want to do. I'd also just point out that, Florida per capita teacher vacancies are less than the national average and much less than states like California. You wouldn't necessarily know that from the media because they tend to only focus on Florida with things. I wonder why that is. So I think we've been very smart to have gone after the
stop right
average
there for a
minimum
second.
salary
I hope
to raise that.
you watch very closely to see what major legacy media covers the Florida school board elections last night. The red wave is coming because of educate. My three A's and my three E's. A, affordability. Issue number one. Number two, A, is anxiety over crime. I mean, really over crime. A is anger over the border, over elite arrogance and smugness and Tony Fauci and all the other people telling you how to run your raw. And the three E's, energy, gas is down a little, but not enough, and natural gas is way up. We're going to be talking about ESG and all the wokeness across the country. And then finally, education. And that's why the Republicans are going to win. Now, the Democrats out there saying this means Dobbs wins. Dobbs is everything. This is special election time in the summer, and the media is all for the Dobbs narrative. That's not true. It's simply not true. There's going to be a red wave. It is taking place, and the grasping at straws, that's fine. Grab at a false positive. Let me do the other news. Joe Biden is going to commit a historic blunder today and forgive $10,000 of student loan debt for every American who has student loan debt and makes less than $125,000 a year. Lawrence Summer, well, yesterday, 2 days ago, nope, it was yesterday, said, I hope the administration does not contribute to inflation macroeconomically by offering unreasonably generous student loan relief, or microeconomically by engineering and encouraging college tuition increases. Lawrence Summers, Democrat, called the inflation problem. This student loan forgiveness is going to anger every single person who paid off their own loans. Hugh Hewitt, put up your hand. Every single person who paid their kids' way along with the kids working through college, Hugh Hewitt, put up your hands. And everyone who doesn't qualify because they came out of school and they've got a lot of debt, but they're making more than $125,000 a year because they went to law school or medical school or business school. And those people, but they're buying votes they already have, and Americans will hate this. That's going to be the big story today. The big story abroad is in Ukraine, where, concerns are rising over a nuclear plant held hostage by the Russians. Wall Street Journal, after 6 months of war in Ukraine, momentum tilts against Russia. That's very, very good news. Liz Truss, who's going to be the next British Prime Minister, has a great piece in the Telegraph this morning. Britain will expose Putin's lies to the world. I already told you that Biden is planning a student loan announcement today. The big story in business yesterday, Twitter whistleblower. Twitter covered up security flaws and fake accounts. And this story is everywhere. I think it's going to get Elon Musk his win. Twitter is a facade built on anonymity and bots. It dropped 7 or 8% in value yesterday. It's going to continue to plummet, and I don't think they can make Elon Musk buy what is fraud in the inducement. I just don't think they're going to be able to do it. Intel sealed its deal to build the 2 plants in Arizona, the 2 plants in Ohio, in a $30 billion partnership with Brookfield. Big wins from Mike DeWine and Doug Ducey, the governors of Ohio and Arizona, respectively. Benny Gantz, defense minister of Israel, heading in the United States to try and stop it from doing the Iran deal. But, I'm not sure he's going to be able to stop the Iran deal from coming. Jason Riley has a Wall Street Journal editorial today about Chautauqua. And Chautauqua was sadly in the news because a very peaceful place, it's a lovely place, I love Chautauqua, is the site of where Salman Rushdie was assaulted and nearly murdered by what appears to be an Iranian operative, whether self-radicalized or actually radicalized by Hezbollah. And Iran should not be at the table with this. But Jason points out that all the descriptions of Chautauqua about being open and diverse, that was true up to about 5 years ago. I was a main stage speaker there 2 years ago, but now center-right has been shunted off. There's a Advocates for Balance at Chautauqua, ABC, which invites Jason and me to come and talk at Chautauqua, but we're not officially invited by Chautauqua because the group's leadership, the institution's leadership, has splintered into wokeness. ABC isn't a splinter group. Chautauqua is the splinter group now, the leadership there. But it's still shocking because the average age up there is like 65 to 70. Read Jason Riley in the Wall Street Journal today. Excellent column. Mine in the Washington Post on the 3 A's and the 3 E's will be up a little bit later this morning. I'm coming back. I got to tell you more about quiet quitters because it made the New York Times yesterday. Last night's into paper today. Who is quiet quitting for? I'll be right back on the Hugh Hewitt Show. Election night last night. I wanted to check in with Leland Vittert of News Nation Now. Did you anchor election night coverage, Leland, last night, or did you get the night off?
I got the night off, Hugh, and I think that it sort of says where we are, that it what last night didn't sort of carry the same weight of primaries that I think we've seen when we had the big Senate races, for example, and some of the more important governor's races.
Yeah, the big two takeaways last night. In New York, there was a special. I wanted Mark Molinaro to win. He lost by 52-48. But 133,000 people voted. Democrats are dancing around saying it's a Roe v. Wade election. In fact, less than 2 years ago, 343,000 people voted in that race, Leland. So what does that tell you about the importance of a special election in August in upstate New York?
You've got enormous voter enthusiasm. I would say the Democrats have a point that there is a Roe component to this turnout. We saw it in Kansas, and I think you'd be remiss not to think about it in New York to get those kinds of numbers coming out in the middle of a special election in August.
I'm going to disagree with you, Leland. If you drop off from 343 in the general to 133, even though I think that shows that all the abortion activists showed up, I just don't think it doesn't mean that abortion motivates as many people as they think when they go from 343 to 133.
Well, I think you can make that argument if it was a general to general. I don't know about general to special. When it's a primary, but either way, I think that what you're seeing, if you're going 50-48 in that, and this is one of the true swing districts, I think you still have to say that Democratic enthusiasm is coming up. Is it coming up to the level that Democrats want it to come up? I don't think so. But if we go across the board and expand this out to what we're seeing in the polls in a number of swing state Senate races as well. The red wave that we were told was building and building momentum just doesn't seem to be there.
Oh, Leland, you and I have a disagreement. I look down at the Florida school district races where Ron DeSantis has won at least 21 out of 30 school board races against incumbents. That is, to me, the edge of the red wave. Of course, DeSantis rolled. The abortion activist candidate in the Democratic primary down there lost to Charlie Crist, who's right on abortion but didn't campaign on abortion. Freed lost, rather, got blown out. I think the Manhattan Beltway media bloc wants it to be an abortion election, and it just isn't. And I think their high watermark is New York's special last night. And that was 1/3 of a general election turnout, even though they were all up in arms about Dobbs. So it's just a different take. Let me ask you about Ukraine.
I think you're very right to point out what happened in Florida in the school boards. We're going to be doing a segment on that tonight on News Nation about the school boards in this flip in the school boards to Republican-dominated school boards. That's motivating to a big part of the electorate. And I think you're right to point out Nikki Fried losing in Florida as well. Tip of the red wave. Be really interesting to see if you are right. I would put to you though, how do you explain Fetterman up double digits in Pennsylvania if that's true? How do you explain it as close as it is in Ohio, with some polls having Tim Ryan up? How do you explain Ron Johnson down in Wisconsin? How do you explain Herschel Walker down?
You raised my perfect question, Leland. I did this with Brett on Special Report. Wisconsin. ABC, Washington Post poll a week before the election, 2020, Joe Biden was going to win by 17 points. He won by 0.6 points. Polling is broken. They do not get Republicans and rural voters to pick up the phone. They can't figure it out. So Fetterman's no more up 11 points than I can fly a jet plane. And JD's not going to lose Ohio. And Tim Ryan's a friend of mine. It's just a deep red state. I think the business is broken. What are you guys doing at New Nation now about polling? Are you just using the Real Clear average? Because if you just average junk, you still end up with junk.
It's a great point. We have a fellow by the name of Scott Tranter, an old Rubio data guy who started Optimistic Consulting and now runs an organization called Decision Desk HQ, who does not only our polling.
Oh, good. That's good. They're good.
Yeah, no, they're very good. So they do the polling and then they do their own modeling. Which I find really interesting because you get not only just sort of the poll data of what we expect the results to be, but looking back historically and putting in current trends, they come up with their own percentage chances of people winning. I have to note that when you went through that, I didn't hear a full-throated endorsement of a victory for Herschel Walker.
Oh, but I think he's going to win. I do. I had
Really?
Herschel on last week. Yes, I think he's going to win, and it's another one of these votes where they do not know how to poll the Latino community. They don't know how to poll rural Georgia, and they don't know how to poll African Americans about Herschel, who may not want to be known to be voting for him. But I think Herschel's going to win. The only one I'm worried about right now is Dr. Oz, but I think he's going to come back. And I think watch Adam Laxalt, who will be on my show on Friday. Leland, always a good to talk to you. Watch him every night on News Nation Now. I appreciate checking in with him. I'll be back, America. Brian Westbury, representative. Morning, Glory, America. Bonjour. Hi, Canada. Hugh Hewitt live from Studio North. When Mayra Flores won a special election in Texas this summer, heads turned. The Hispanic movement towards the Republican Party is real. She personifies it. She joins me this morning. Congresswoman, good morning. Welcome for the first time, I hope, of many to the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Let's begin, Congresswoman Flores. Tell people where the 34th district is, where you have to run in November in a new district. Tell us about it.
Well, we're in South Texas, and I mean deep in South Texas, right by the state of Tamaulipas, Mexico. And yeah, we're very excited and blessed about the special election that we won. You know, this win was really not just about South Texas. It was a win for the entire state and the entire country. So we're truly blessed, but it was about all the hard work and dedication that we put into this race. And
There's
that we
also
will again in November.
There's a great personal story, Congresswoman. Tell people your background and how you came to be the first of your kind in the Republican in Congress.
Well, I was born in Burgos, Tamaulipas, Mexico. It's about 2.5 hours actually away from here, from my current home right now, and blessed to come here to the United States when I was 6 years old. My father became an American citizen and filed for us to be able to come here to the United States. Both my parents were migrant workers. I was a migrant worker myself at the age of 13, continued my education, graduated in 2004 from San Benito High School, became a respiratory care practitioner, a proud Border Patrol wife. I'm a mother, and accomplished the American dream here in the United States. And I want to make sure that our children have the opportunities that I had as well. And if someone like myself can accomplish so much, I want to make sure that our children do as well. And I just feel that under this administration and the Democrat Party, they're taking away the American dream from our children, and this country is worth fighting for. And I just want to give back to this amazing country that's done so much for me.
Congresswoman Flores, I did not know that you were a Border Patrol spouse, and that, of course, means you know the issue better, at least as well as anybody else. So your first piece of legislation, which is a border piece of legislation, sort of exemplifies your mission. Tell people about that.
It's so important that we focus on border security. Border security is an issue that is important not just here for South Texas, but for the entire country. Unfortunately, a lot of people on the Democrat Party are not supportive of border security and understanding that the policies that this administration is putting in is causing the influx of people coming in. And these people go through so much. They go literally through hell just to come here to the United States, go through so much abuse. Children go through so much abuse. So if we care about immigrants, we should focus on legal immigration and how we can improve the process so the good people that want to come here to work hard for the American dream can do so, but legally, and allow our Border Patrol agents to do their job and focus on criminals and terrorists. And that's why, for me, it was so important to work on legislation, but where I could convince some on the other side to work together. And this legislation, what it will do, law enforcement operations will improve, and they'll be able to share information amongst each other, because at the moment, so many organizations amongst FBI, Border Patrol, Texas law enforcement, they can't share information amongst each other. And what this legislation does, it allows them to be to work together and share information, which is so important because the local law enforcement may have information that Border Patrol doesn't, vice versa, and this will allow them to work together. And this shouldn't be political. You know, I really do think that border security shouldn't be about Democrat or Republican. It really frustrates me because this is something that we should all want, right?
Yeah,
Like
well, Congresswoman
like,
Flores, I have a new Washington Post column this morning. It just went up over at the Washington Post, which says fentanyl has an address. It's the border. When anyone crosses illegally with fentanyl, that's the address of our fentanyl crisis. But you represent a political existential threat to the Democrats. They really have to get rid of you, Mayra Flores. And that's why Republicans have to rally to you. Are you raising money from small dollar donors? Because that's how you're going to have to win in November. Because they're going to do everything they can to beat Mayra Flores. You are an existential threat to the Democratic Party.
I am a threat. I am probably their biggest threat. You know, I am everything that they claimed that they were for and that they supported, and yet I've only received hate from them. I mean, they want to send me back to Mexico.
Yeah, basically. Yep.
Back to Mexico, basically, right? It took Mayra Flores to run for Congress and get elected for the Democrat Party to be for deportation because that's all I get from them. But yes, we're raising money here in South Texas, throughout the country. There's so many people that are donating to this cause because they understand that this is very important, not just for South Texas, but for the entire country. And we receive all those smaller donations that to me mean just as much. You know, $1, $5, every dollar counts, and it makes a huge difference. And I am forever grateful for every donation that we have received throughout the country. So
I want people to know the website.
Doing amazing.
Mayra Flores for Congress. Mayra. Mayra Flores, Flores, FOR Congress. MayraFloresForCongress.com. So Mayra, how much of the district is changed from the one you won? This is the redistricting year. It's a little bit confusing. You're running in a district that is just not the same lines by virtue of redistricting. How's that working out?
It's working out great. The lines didn't really change that much. South Texas has always been really where it dictates who wins in November because the biggest population has always been in Cameron County and in Hidalgo, and that remains still in the same district. So it hasn't changed in that aspect. We did win Cameron County for the first time in the special election, and we're confident that we're going to win Cameron County in November. And I'm very confident in the work that we're doing, the block walking, the phone banking. No one is going to outdo the work that we're doing. Also, this area is very conservative. We're all about faith, family, and hard work. That is who we are. South Texas is not the same like Austin or California or New York. We're very conservative. The problem that we had before is just that we were not investing in this area. I told the Republican Party, we are worth you investing. It is important that you start investing in the Hispanic community. We will be the majority in 10 years from now in Texas. So it's important that we start, investing and getting the message out there in the district. And I'm very, very grateful to the Republican Party, to the NRCC, to the RNC, and all organizations that are investing in this area. It's because of them that we've been able to spread the message across the district, both in Spanish and English, because a lot of people here in the district don't know how to speak English. So it's important that we get that message because if we don't, they will. And
I heard Kevin McCarthy say they're making Republicans who have never advertised on Spanish language radio. You obviously would go there naturally, but they're making them do that. I was with Juan Ciscomani last week. He will be the first Mexican-born naturalized American citizen in Congress, male. You're the first Mexican-born female naturalized American in the Republican Party in Congress. I'm just so happy for this development because it's where the party has to go. And I hope people across the country realize that, right? Do they know that?
Yes, I do. I do feel that they do know that. It's so important that we get more Hispanics to run in the Republican Party. That's the only way we're going to end identity politics, because I hate identity politics. And the only way to end it, is by getting more Hispanics into the Republican Party, so we can end it and just focus on the person and the values, and not focus on where they're from or the color of their skin. None of that should matter.
One of the biggest races in the fall. Keep coming back, Myra Flores. Congresswoman Flores can be found at MyraFloresForCongress.com. MAYRA Flores, FLORES for the Steelers fan. MyraFloresForCongress.com. Thank you, Congresswoman. Keep coming back.
Thank you so much. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Don't go back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. Jim Garrity, chief columnist and political analyst for National Review Online, joins me. Jim, good morning. What do you make of the elections in New York and Florida last night?
There are quite a few things that had me pleased. I do think that the demolition derby between Nadler and Maloney revealed something about these two lawmakers who'd been in Congress for 30 years, who called each other friends. And then the moment they were up against each other, they set out to destroy each other. Yep. They really kept, she was arguing he was senile. He said she was gullible and naive. And it was just kind of fascinating to see. If you've been in Congress long enough, at some point you just stop caring about anything except winning, and you're willing to, crush the reputation of somebody you call a friend. The other significant result that I thought was interesting was Nikki Fried tried to run the #resistance playbook against Ron DeSantis. She compared him to Hitler. She said he was an aspiring dictator. He was sucking up to insurrectionists and white supremacists, and all the playbook that the Democrats ran in 2018 and 2020 against Trump, and I think we have to acknowledge, worked in a lot of places. Not only did this not put her head-to-head against Ron DeSantis, it didn't get her anywhere against Charlie Crist, who is not exactly a whirling dervish of raw political charisma. Huh. So I think it's kind of this interesting lesson that the resistance tactics and this idea of demonizing your opponent and all that stuff, it didn't work, and Charlie Crist, who, is a very well-worn tire, so to speak, had a relatively sunnier disposition, and it worked better. And I think may have indicated, something that worked for Democrats for a long while doesn't work when you're not running against Trump.
Ron DeSantis also got involved in 30 school district races, of which the 21 that have been decided, he's 21 for 21. There are 9 still in doubt. I think that is our sleeper issue. I'm going to come back to it. But of course, Democrats this morning are dancing around the special that saw 133,000 people vote when the general election is 343 and declaring that there's no red wave. In fact, I just saw someone write that I've been captured by my audience because I'm still predicting there's a red wave. Dave Wasserman is still predicting there's a red wave. You can't take anything away from a special, Jim. You just can't.
Well, Wasserman's been captured by his right-wing audience, too.
Yes, yeah, that's true.
Look, there's going to be a red wave. I think what's still an open question is just how big it's going to be. And I do think that, if Republicans won, 15 to 20 seats in the House and, won 51 to 49, it would still feel a little disappointing considering where we were. And when you look at the overall political environment, these are the sorts of circumstances when the president's approval rating is high 30s, low 40s. Wrong track direction is at 70%, sometimes 75%. This is the environment where the incumbent party should get wiped out, and yet it's not quite clear if it's going to be on that scale.
Voting starts in late September in Minnesota, and if it's cold, the Democrats are screwed because natural gas prices are so high. Jim, I've got a column in the Washington Post that posted about 40 minutes ago, and I talk about 3 A's and 3 E's. And the A's the Republicans are running on are affordability, anxiety, and anger, mostly about the border, also about elitism. And they're running on energy, education, and ESG. And I think that's just their playbook. I know that's their playbook. I went out and listened and interviewed to a dozen new candidates last week. That's their playbook. Is it going to work throughout the fall?
I think it will work more than it doesn't work. I think one of the problems for the messages the Democratic candidates are beating the drums on right now are going to work with their base. Abortion is going to, generate, who's going to get some people out that might not have been so motivated before. Talking about Trump, if they want to make Mar-a-Lago and the idea of, Trump is this fascist who's, if Republicans win, Trump's going to come back, et cetera, that'll fire up their base. That'll mitigate their losses, here and there. But I do think that, look, inflation is front and center still. And the thing I've been thinking about, I'm probably going to be writing about this later today. So I filled up my tank yesterday, and it was $3.99 a gallon here in Northern Virginia. Now, that's way better than it used to be, but that's still expensive, right? We're used to gas being in my neck of the woods anywhere between $2 and $3 a gallon. So it's not hard to find Democrats who are seeing the decline in gas over the last 2 months and saying, aha, good, we fixed it. No, no, you haven't. It's still.
Have you ordered pizza for the young Garrity's recently?
Grocery bills. Yes, exactly. The other great irony is that as much as we've seen some improvement in gas prices, which again is not good, it is simply less catastrophic. The increase in grocery prices is still terrible. Yeah. And so everybody was laughing. Look, I think Dr. Oz is a deeply flawed candidate. But everybody who was laughing about that video where he's in the supermarket and he's calling it Wegner's instead of Wegmans, and he's referring to crudités instead of what most of us would call a vegetable plate, I think people do chuckle at that, crudités. But hey, yeah, I'm paying twice as much as I used to pay for groceries.
Yeah,
and
they're talking about groceries.
Yeah.
And John Fetterman isn't talking well at all. I played some tape. I feel bad for the guy, but he's impaired. Jim, I want to make sure I talk to you, though, about candidate recruitment. Kevin McCarthy has turned out to be the Nick Saban and Urban Meyer of congressional candidates. And whether I talked to last week, Eli Crane, Juan Ciscomani, Rich McCormick, Zach Nunn, Jen Ruth Green, Aaron Holchin, Lori Chavez DeReamer, Alan Fung, Wesley Hunt, Jen Kiggins, Derek Van Orden, and I just talked to Myra Flores. The bench that the Republicans have brought to this game, they are playing to win with great candidate recruitment. Veterans, people of color, women, a couple of naturalized Mexican Americans. It's just remarkable to me how well McCarthy is recruited. And Tom Emmers and Steve Scalise.
Hugh, when you called him the Urban Meyer of recruiting in politics, do you mean the Urban Meyer of Ohio State or Urban
Ohio
Meyer of
State
Jaguars?
And by the way, he drafted very well with Trevor Lawrence. I still think he got a raw deal.
That was a hard call.
Different.
Yeah,
that was a hard call. How are the Jets doing, by the way, as they reel from the Zach Wilson injury?
Well, our quarterback's coming back this year, which I guess he'll be back.
So is mine.
Anyway, getting to candidate recruiting. Look, if you are on the right side of the spectrum, you have been accused of being racist and sexist and hateful and all that stuff your entire life, and you're really sick of it. And you believe these things not because you think they're good for men or because they're good for white people or they're good for straight people or something like that. You believe in free markets. You believe in strong defense. You believe in freedom because you think it works best for everyone, not because you think it works just for people who look like you. So when you see a more diverse group of Republican candidates out there, when you start seeing almost every seat that Republicans picked up in 2020 was either a woman, a veteran, or a member of a minority group.
Yep.
And that was a more diverse Republican Party self-evidently refutes this idea of, well, we believe in the free market because it works for white men. No, we believe this works because it can make it work for everybody.
Because it works.
Yeah.
Okay, very quick, I got to ask you about the Fauci farewell tour. I think this is the greatest thing the Republicans could have hoped for. The Fauci farewell tour can go on. They can do a 20-city tour. I hope he just stays out there because the good doctor, and he's an amiable guy. I'm not a Fauci hater. He's just wrong and he's old. He just stirs people's memories of the nightmare of public policy choices made by him, CDC, FDA, and HHS. And it was a nightmare.
Whether he wanted this to be the case or not, he became the face of the lockdowns. He became the face of these decisions, even though they were enacted by the likes of Gretchen Whitmer and Andrew Cuomo and folks like that. And the other thing is, I'm starting to think the moment your face appears on a prayer candle, which, by the way, Fauci didn't do. This is some, merchandiser out there who decides to, cash in on his image. Or the moment you start having action figures, the moment a large amount of merchandising appears around your role in the public eye, you start losing touch with reality. And you start believing your own press clippings. And you start believing, I am the science, to paraphrase one of his statements. So
the bubble, and it's like the old Prisoner television series, which are too young to remember, Jim. The bubble comes up and it gets you. Jim Garrity is Garrity the Indispensable. Follow him at Jim Garrity on Twitter. Read what he writes at National Review. Thank you, Jim. Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. Joe O'Dea is striking fear in the heart of Democrats in Colorado for good reason. He reminds them of Wayne Allard and Bill Armstrong. Joe O'Dea, welcome back to the Hugh Hewitt Show. How are you?
I'm great, Hugh. Thanks so much for having me on this morning.
It's great to be with you. I taught at Colorado Christian College one semester for my friend Bill Armstrong, and we would go out and talk about the cost of college. And they would try and help students, but he was really, really against forgiving student debt. And today is the day that Joe Biden's just going to give $10,000 to people who owe money. And I think that is a moral hazard. What does Joe O'Dea think about that?
It's unbelievable. It must be an election year. We must be right in front of the midterms, right? And this is a desperate ploy to transfer debt to working Americans. It's a gift to the richest 40% are responsible for 60% of that debt. So it's a gift to rich Americans. He's pandering for votes. It's unbelievable to me. It wipes out, they were talking about how they're going to use debt reduction out of the Inflation Reduction Act. And this basically wipes all of that out. My wife and I both went to Colorado State University, and we paid for our tuition while we were there. We were working at night, and that's how most Americans have done it. And this is just a transfer to working Americans of an additional tax.
Yeah, there is no debt forgiveness. There's only a transfer of that debt to somebody else. In this case, everyone who pays taxes. And it's going to be inflationary, Joe. Lawrence Summers, Bill Clinton's Secretary of the Treasury, Barack Obama's lead economic advisor, said it's going to be inflationary. We're trying to beat that. And they're giving away $10,000 to, I don't know how many people are going to get it, but lots.
Yeah, they just have no economic policies that are going to help us with this inflation at all. And working Americans are getting crushed right now. We're worried about the cost of gas. We're worried about the cost of milk. I mean, groceries are at an all-time high. You can't go out to dinner. People are going to have to make decisions about whether to heat the house or put food on the table. And these guys just do not get it. They just keep making it worse.
Now, Joe O'Dea, I was with a bunch of Republicans last week, and you're the name on everyone's lips because you've scared Michael Bennet to death. You two were together at a ribbon cutting yesterday. Michael Bennet, the invisible senator, was there. It's your company that's building that project, isn't it?
It is. And yesterday was a great day. I got to tell you, they finally got some permits out of the way. They finally got some funding in place to do a really great project for Coloradans. My guys are excited about the team. Working for Northern Water up there. It's going to be a great project.
So when you campaign, is Bennett going to debate you, Joe? Because I don't think he wants to do that.
Well, I'd love to debate him. I've challenged him, and we've had crickets. He hasn't said a word. We've got 3 offers out there, and he doesn't want to talk to me because what I want to talk about is what's bothering working Americans right now. Like I said, it's cost of gas, it's cost of groceries. He doesn't want to talk about any of those policies. He's hiding behind Joe Biden. He votes with him 100% of the time. They're giving away money to wealthy people. That's how they're going to run their campaign.
Now, Joe, I've got a column in the Post this morning that talks about 3 A's and 3 E's: affordability, anxiety and anger, energy, education, and ESG. These are like the stump speech for every Republican. Are Republicans, have they had it, and independents and Democrats with educators in Colorado like they did in Florida last night? They fired a whole bunch of school board members in Florida last night.
We did that about a year ago. We had fired up moms and dads that came out and voted to make a lot of changes with our education systems across the state. We flipped some boards in El Paso County. We flipped the board in Douglas County, and they did the same over in Grand Junction. So, the parents are fired up about what their kids are learning. It's just they want to be able to control the agenda. They want to be able to program our kids, and parents are tired of it.
Now, we've also had Senator Scott on this program say the Republican Party has to be the party of parents. Are they showing up at your rallies? Are they contributing? And I want to close by telling people how to get involved with your campaign because we got a big audience in Colorado. Tell me about the parents. Are they with you?
The parents are with us. They're fired up. They're tired of paying. They're tired of the inflation. They're tired of the education problems. They're tired of the cost of gas. I mean, they're fired up and they're ready to make a change here in Colorado. They're behind us. We're having a lot of excitement across the state as we go around. It's a great year to be running. We're running on the issues, and Michael Bennett's hiding.
It is a great year to be running, but you still need money. I mean, you got to have small dollar donors. Where do people get involved with your campaign, Joe?
They can jump on joeodea.com. That's joeodea.com. We've got a website set up there. Love to have their small donations, their large ones. It does cost money. We've got our ads running on TV right now. We're going after things, and we're going to make sure that we represent working Americans here in Colorado.
You know, voting starts in like 35 days, doesn't it? It's like 40 days away when the votes actually can begin to be counted in Colorado.
Yeah, I think the ballots drop sometime around the 15th, 18th of October, and so they'll be out.
I'll tell you, Joe, keep coming back between now and then. You are the sleeper for the Republicans. It's not a sleeper. It's not a secret anymore. Joe Day is scaring the Democrats to death in the Centennial State. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Dwayne. Thank you, Jacob. And all of you who are listening, I will be back tomorrow. Big show tomorrow. Governor DeSantis, Jared Kushner. Lots more updates. We'll have all of the rest of the school district races in Florida. The red wave is still coming. Don't listen to legacy media. Honest to goodness, they got the talking points this morning, and it's kind of amusing to watch. Go over and read my Washington Post column. You'll know why Republicans are going to win in the fall. I'm Hugh Hewitt. Talk to you tomorrow on the next Hugh Hewitt Show.